while your day is winding down. They're just getting started. This is South Coast Tonight with Chris McCarthy and Marcus Farrow. They've got you covered on all the news of the day, from local issues to politics on both sides of the aisle. This is the place where the movers and shakers come to be heard, to listen, and where they're held accountable. This is South Coast Tonight on WBSM.
Good evening.
So, Marcus, that was a fun visit with the mayor.
Yeah, it was.
It's nice to laugh every once in a while, right?
It is.
You know, from him sitting here, nothing he said, he's very guarded, obviously, about his plans for the future, about re-election political plans. I think he's very open about the city's plans. Doesn't seem like a man who's leaving.
Doesn't seem like a man who's leaving. No.
Right? It seems like, and I've said this for a long time, he's got things he's accomplished. He's got things he wants to finish.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's a man who's moving on.
Doesn't seem like it, especially with the housing.
He doesn't seem unhappy in his job.
And it's especially with like the housing plan that he did and all of that. Just seems like there's more to do. That
real estate question, you could see how excited he got about it.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, he wants to do something.
Well, that's another project too that you need to like break ground on is the industrial park and all that. Needs to be, there's a lot that's been done, a lot of work over the last almost decade, right? Just to get that going. Now you need to get the shovels in the ground.
And it can really transform New Bedford, the region.
Yeah.
Along the lines of, I would say, when Mayor Ashley brought the water from Freetown, when John Markey secured the land for the dump at Crapo Hill, other type projects, that really shaped the history, shaped the future of the city. Creating a more open industrial land with the tax base. For the future economy. John, the Mayor Mitchell seemed really legitimately excited about that. He said, we'll have some more stuff for the summer, plans. That's not a man, in my opinion, who's going anywhere.
No, I don't think so. It seems pretty clear. And in that case, it seems like the field's pretty clear in that scenario. So I think we'll probably see him run for re-election. I am intrigued about the State of the City address. I knew he wasn't going to announce any election plans there because it's also like not appropriate in your official capacity in office. Yeah. I think I brought that up to a caller. I think a while back. It's you do that outside of that.
It would be a lot of city resources for a political campaign.
Would be a lot of city resources for a political campaign. But 508-996-0500, that's how you can join us this evening. We'll stick your message on the app chat. I know last night there was, I had the sheriff on. We, talked a little bit about the aftermath of the inmate standoff or riot, whatever you want to call it. The sheriff seems to have an objection to the categorization of a riot. But there isn't, I think at this juncture, I don't know, Chris, it doesn't seem like there can be a lot more said about it until we get the after-action report.
Marcus, I agree with you. The after-action review is important. The pictures are pretty horrendous. You can see them at WBSM.com. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to assess industrial damage, quite frankly. I don't. I would be pretending if I did. I mean, it looks pretty expensive to me, but it's probably, as he said, in the range of around $250,000. The inmates are going to be charged. Yeah. That's the appropriate response. You can't let them get away with it. You got to charge them. I think they'll find out that was a temper tantrum that cost them a lot more than they got for it, that since the mayor, since the sheriff, the former mayor of Attleboro, since Sheriff Haru handled them with what can be arguably called kid gloves, he kept dogs away, things like that. They're going to have to pay in the courts. I mean, they didn't get dogs, so maybe they got to riot a little longer and break a few more things. So they're going to get really hammered in the courts. I mean, had they inmates not gone crazy?
Here's the thing with the dogs. I don't know. Like, you know, I think actually a caller had called in last night to talk about sort of the situation, you know, who had done some, you know, said that they had done some correction time, you know, in corrections, you know, worked in corrections. And, you know, you're in a situation where I think tensions are pretty high. And I think there's a lot to be said about having a cool down period to, you know, mitigate both officer and inmate safety in that particular scenario. Not a single person went to the hospital and all that chaos, which I think is actually, you know, a pretty good outcome so far. You know, we still need to
look. If they'd gone to the hospital, we would have had to pay the bill anyway.
Yeah,
so it keeps the taxpayers, you know, costs down.
I mean, just for both the inmate and the officers too. You know,
totally.
Because you know, we were talking about it. Like the 20 people that were seen as like the aggressors in this, 3 were on. So it's important to remember, in the Bristol County House of Correction, there is not a single person serving a sentence for rape, for murder,
right,
for arson, for those crimes that would you'd get sent to state prison for, crimes that have a sentence of longer than 2.5 years. Right? There isn't a single person serving a sentence there, but there are people being held. Not a lot, but a few people being held awaiting trial on those crimes. There were 3 people that have been charged with murder. And these people have been moved to other prisons throughout the Commonwealth. 3 people being held on murder, 1 A and B dangerous weapon, a few other cases. He had listed them last night. But, you know, I think someone had said, well, you know, if you have a dog in this situation, if there's a dog, you know, you'd be scared. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not on trial for murder. You know, I think there might be, in a situation like that, there might be people with certain predispositions that people like you and I do not have. You know?
Well, yeah, having never murdered anybody, I can't speak as a murderer.
Or being accused of murdering anybody.
That's correct, even being accused of it. I've been accused of murdering some reputations, but never a person.
Same.
I can tell you, I've had big dogs. I like dogs. I've worked with canines from the Plymouth County Sheriff's Department.
Yeah.
They're scary.
Yeah.
They are scary. And I can remember that my first introduction to working with canines was they had us act like a riot so we could see what it was like to be on the working side of the dog, okay? So that we would have confidence when we were behind the dog and what the experience was for the rioters. And I can tell you that, again, without the disposition of a real rioter or someone accused of a murder or something like that, with just the regular disposition of I would say, a soldier, I was intimidated by that dog. I was scared. Right. I mean, believe me, I was scared. And I don't get scared of dogs. I've had a Rottweiler. I mean, I've had dogs. But it's a difference between your pet and a trained attack dog.
Right.
A dog is trained to intimidate.
Yeah.
All I could think of was Marcus is that's a chainsaw that can run 30 miles an hour. I can't get away from that chainsaw.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like to me. A chainsaw that could run 30 miles an hour. So, at the end of the day, elections have consequences. The sheriff went in there. He handled it. I think you're right about the fact that no injuries on either side is a best case scenario.
Yeah. And so, well, again, it's just, I know there's a lot of discussion around it, and I think we're just going to have to see what happens there. I mean, you know, for all the talk about this wouldn't have happened under so-and-so, we do know that riots happened under Sheriff Hodgson, Sheriff Nelson as well, the Easter riot and all of that. So,
yeah.
You know, we'll just have to, and there was an investigation and a conclusion to that, and I think that's just what we're going to end up discovering. You know, I think beyond that, I think for the time being, I think it's good to sort of move on from the topic. Right?
Well, I mean, unless a real inmate who was involved wants to call us from wherever the hell they are now, there's nothing else to offer, right? I mean,
yeah, right.
I don't know anything more about it than,
yeah,
right? I think you're right, Marcus. Until the after-action review comes out,
yeah,
how do you know?
Right, exactly. Until we get a report, because all it is speculation at this point. And I think some people may be trying to relitigate the election. But 508-996-0500 is how you can join us this evening. We can also take your messages on the WBSM app. We got Colin Hogan from the New Bedford Light coming at 9 o'clock. He's the education reporter. We're looking forward. He's going to join us in the studio. We're looking forward to that. We're looking forward to speaking with him. And we're looking forward to speaking with you. So, Chris.
Yes.
Tucker Carlson got fired. We haven't had a chance to talk about that yet.
Our competition is gone.
Our competition is gone.
Right.
That's why he got fired.
Folks don't know. I called Murdoch about a month ago. I said, Murdoch, buddy, you got to take care of this guy. He's cutting into South Coast tonight.
Yeah.
And he said, sure, Chris, anything for you in an Aussie accent. And
in an Aussie accent.
Right.
Yeah.
And I said, thanks, man. And next thing you know, Tucker's gone.
I think it was, and in part, too, he's like, I can't outrate these guys anyway.
He said, why am I giving all that money to Tucker when South Coast Tonight's drowning him out?
Yeah.
What am I paying Tucker for when these guys over here who are making God knows what, I'll try to buy them.
Yeah.
But I said, no, Marcus and I are not going to go
we
over
have
to Fox
integrity.
Network. Integrity. Integrity Farms.
508
South Park
996-0500. Good evening.
Whoa, Chris, Marcus, Don.
Hey,
Don. How are things in Stoughton?
Oh, you don't want to know. The less you know, the better.
That's my policy, yeah.
Yeah, all right. Just a quick follow-up on the inmate situation.
Sure.
First off, how many hours did it take before it was resolved? 6 or 7 hours?
About that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Who pays for all the agencies to show up?
You do. The taxpayer.
The state, yeah.
Oh, okay. Now, I understand that Sheriff Hodgson was able to resolve the situation in less than 5 minutes. So I'm going with due diligence here.
So a couple of things about that. One, that's not correct. He wasn't able to serve that in 5 minutes because there were, I think, at least an hour and a half, 2 hours, if you're talking about the ICE detention facility. There was about an hour and a half, 2 hours, 2 hour gap in between, I think, with much of the same stuff going on from what Sheriff Rose told us, and we'll get the footage we can get on that. Doing the, relatively the same stuff. So there's a couple hours in between. The in and out, he said they were in and out flex cuffs in 90 seconds.
Right.
Yeah, there was some build up to that. Two, there were 24 ICE detention, there were 24 inmates in the ICE detention facility. There was about 130 inmates in between the two units that were involved in this standoff. So it's a little bit of, I think, of a different
I think the
operation.
major difference, Don, is that with Hodgson on this the one that we're talking about, there were no outside agencies. As far as I know, no outside agencies. With this one, there were a ton of outside agencies that had to be brought in. That's the major difference.
Well, let me pile on top of that,
Sure.
Chris. You use due diligence. As an engineer, when I do a job, the people expect me to do it quickly, safely, and as cheaply as possible.
Yes, sir.
So that's due diligence. So if Sheriff Heroux had the dogs there and could have used them to put an end to the situation quicker without having to call in many other units to assist, that there, I believe, is due diligence, and he should have used the most quickest way and safest way to end the situation because you don't know if inmates are going to get hurt. And the second quick point is, will this be the protocol in the future that things will be allowed to continue until enough agencies show up so the inmates know they got 5, 6, maybe 7 hours that they can riot before anything occurs? What do you think?
Well, I do think that Sheriff Heroux is a bright guy. He's an educated man. And part of the education is you learn from your experience. So if, as part of the after-action review, they determine that had they used dogs, it would have hastened it, maybe cut down on it, whatever. Maybe you'll see dogs come back or be introduced next time. I think out of this he's going to learn. He'll learn something. Everybody learns from experiences. So I would say
true
that.
Enough. True enough. I mean, I look to what other engineers have done in order for myself to perform my task.
Mm-hmm.
But again, you have to see how much is this going to cost, and what is the message sent to the inmates that they might be able to get away with more riots than that, and know that they have extra time to do so.
Well, the 20 or so that are going to be that were said to be involved in this are getting criminally charged, right? So it's not like
can't get blood from a stone.
Well, not all of them are not all of them are serving or facing charges that carry life sentences, and there's still even, the fact that they may be acquitted of these charges that they've been accused of, but still have to serve a sentence and for the crime they may have committed in this particular circumstance, which, could carry like a 2.5 years. It depends on how much you do, right? But it could carry 2.5 year sentence, or a few of them, or some on and after. So I think there's enough deterrent there for a lot of people, especially considering the average time someone spends in a county jail in Massachusetts, I think, is about 6 months. So I think there's enough there. I think the fact that these guys are going to be charged or moved elsewhere, I think there's enough deterrent there.
Well, it just concerns me that the sheriff could have done or utilized better methods to end the situation.
We're unsure of that, though. That's the whole thing.
No, well, yeah. I had a close relative that worked at a place called Cedar Junction, Walpole.
Yep. Yeah.
And then Norfolk. So I have a good insight of what's happening in these larger prisons. But yes, they do fear the dogs. But I don't know. I think it could have been handled better, and I think the sheriff might have been a little lackadaisical in responding as quickly as he might have.
The difference between a dog and a human being is that most people who've been in prison have been in physical conflict with other human beings.
Correct.
It's an entirely different world when it's a dog. And a dog is extremely intimidating, and they're scary as hell. And the dogs do not back off.
No, I worked in military intel when I was in the Army.
Right.
And guess what they had guarding the gates?
Yes.
The dogs.
The dogs. They're scary.
Okay.
they, in every language, a dog is scary.
Yes.
Right? Right. In every language.
The Malinois and the German Shepherds, yeah.
Amazing. They're amazing animals.
So, all right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Have a good night.
For the call.
All right, guys.
Good evening. You're live.
Oh, hello.
Hey.
How are you?
Good.
Hey.
I put on my radio at the end of the mayor's speaking about the golf course.
Yes.
And he mentioned that they're trying to reconstitute and remarket the property and so forth. Did he? And he said there was going to be more news at the end of the summer or sometime in the summer. What else did he happen to say about that? As I said, I may have missed the beginning of what he was speaking about it.
So what he said is that, he talked about the transition from how they had to get the legislature, to do the process for them, which you were involved in. So you know about that. So, so that was what the delay was. And then in the meantime, the change in the economy, the change in the interest rates, the pandemic, things like that. So they have to retool it and remarket the property, to look for more interest in what is a changing economy.
Did he give a timeline or anything like that?
You heard what he said. He said the summer, so that they're going to be working on that through the summer. I get the sense that they're going to. So here's what I do know, separate from this conversation today, that originally when they started to put the project together, they had interest from developers. What they're in the process of doing is calling back some of those people, reaching out to them and saying, what is it that kept you away from this project? Is it price? What is it exactly? To try to get some feedback, to make some changes, to make it more appetizing for developers.
So the summer timeline is for a new strategy. Is that what he was saying?
Correct.
Oh, okay, I see. Because there's still a whole long involved process even after that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because of the traffic studies and all those other things. And to bring you just slightly up to date, the golf course all golf courses in the current environment since the pandemic have done multiple double-digit growth rates. The course, I just got the statistics recently. The rounds played are way up, double-digit increases the last 3 years, every year, year over year. And it's never been, I've been playing there 50 years, and I've never seen it as active or as in good condition as it is now. I mean, it's just the game overall right now has never seen the growth that you've gone through like 3 or 4 phases in the history of the game in the modern era, from Donald Palmer through Jack Nicklaus through Tiger Woods, and now the 4th largest one is the pandemic, and it's been the most durable one, because it's a difficult game to learn, and it's so dependent on meteorology, and if you have a rainy spring or a rainy summer, you're going to have a lousy season, and of course the economics of it. The leisure funds are hard to find sometimes, and that's why the game has sort of a sine wave of development over the years. It doesn't grow as rapidly, but when it does, it grows huge amounts, and then it falls, and it grows huge amounts, and then it falls. That's just the nature of the beast. So that's all I wanted to know. Thank you. I appreciate
Thanks for the call.
Thank you, my friend.
Bringing me up to date.
Going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back to South Coast Tonight. I'm Mark. Oh, damn it.
What's the matter, Marcus?
We didn't ask Mitchell his favorite TV show.
We didn't. He could text it in.
We had 5 minutes where we totally mailed it in, too.
We could have asked him. We could speculate on it.
What's John Mitchell's favorite TV show?
What do you think, callers? John Mitchell's favorite TV show? Because of his age, I'm going to guess he was a Cheers man.
I could see Cheers.
Yep.
Yeah.
There was that City Hall type sitcom.
Frasier. It's Frasier, too. Oh, Spin City.
Spin City. But he may have been out of his TV years, because I kind of was.
That was Michael J. Fox. Right?
Michael J. Fox, yeah. I was kind of out of my TV years when that show came on. And I assumed...
late 90s.
Yeah, I assumed John was too, doing other things. But it was around, so I was familiar with it.
I could see Cheers, Frasier.
Cheers, yep. Cheers. He's got a Seinfeld attitude, right? I think Mitchell could like Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Who can't like Seinfeld?
Yeah.
There are people out there that don't.
We'll have to get that question from him. I'll flag him down.
We'll see him again.
I'll flag him down at the State of the City.
Start yelling questions from
John.
the press. Yes.
Mayor
Mitchell.
What's your favorite TV show?
Mayor Mitchell. By the way, that's he's right about the free food, the lunch that they offer.
Oh, yeah.
That is the big hook.
Yeah.
But I do have to say that it's pretty cool that New Bedford gets such a big crowd for the State of the City.
I agree.
It does give the mayor a statewide platform. Because
I do see a lot of State of the City addresses that because sometimes there's other elected officials that attend those and all that, and I see them attending. They're all mostly done in council chambers.
What I want to know though is, can we get C-SPAN there? Because sometimes I see these State of the State addresses on C-SPAN. Yeah. That would be pretty cool if C-SPAN covered that.
Yeah. Would they have an interest in doing that?
Well, New Bedford's a historic city.
Yeah.
Maybe you hold up a copy of Moby Dick.
Remember this book?
Right. You kids were all forced to read when How many copies of the Cliff Notes were sold of that book?
Yeah, right, yeah.
It's a long book.
It's true.
It's a long book when when the movie is painfully long.
I never saw the movie. Wait, I did. I watched it in I think I watched it.
You were forced.
Yeah, in elementary school.
You were forced.
Or middle school.
Yeah, forced.
Yeah. Yeah.
Picturing a little Marcus
watching Moby Dick.
Punching his buddies next to him.
I remember
Marcus, knock it off.
So our teacher made us write whaling logs, pretending that we were whaling people, and then afterwards she laughed at us about the number of whales because some people were like, I killed 100 whales today, and she's like, that's not correct. I'm like, well,
Well, how would you know?
How are we supposed to know?
By the way,
it's your job to tell us that.
You should have flagged that kid as a serial killer. By the way, that teacher would lose their job today.
Can you imagine?
By the way, that's why you guys are all in favor of the wind industry. You're like, yeah, what's wrong with killing whales? I imaginary killed whales when I was a baby.
100 whales.
Right. I killed 100 whales. My teacher, I got praised and laughed at. I got the teacher's attention. No wonder you're for offshore wind. Get to finally really kill whales.
So, anyway, 508-996-0500 is how you can join us.
Marcus, you had started off on an obvious bait to the callers, Tucker Carlson. Here's my theory on Tucker Carlson. He got too big for the Murdochs. He forgot that he's just another brick in the wall.
Yeah.
He's a showman.
It's true because
he's not leading a movement.
No.
He does infotainment.
No.
He had a nice program. He was paid very well. But the Murdochs are the boss. You can't go around calling your boss names.
Yeah.
You can't undermine your boss. Your boss didn't buy a TV network so that the talking heads could disrespect him and tell him what to do.
Well, not only that, the thing is that we talked about this before. People talk about, he's the highest rated cable network news host, whatever. Okay. But before him, it was Bill O'Reilly.
And they fired him.
Yeah. And they had the same exact slot and they fired him and then Tucker got it. It's not even that Tucker Carlson's this amazing, brilliant genius. It's just that the slot is lucrative.
Well, it's the slot on Fox's because it's
the slot on Fox. Yeah. That's what I meant. Yeah. I want to be clear about that. The time slot on Fox News at 8 p.m.
Right.
is high volume.
The slot on CNN is garbage.
Yeah.
Right. The slot on MSNBC is garbage.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
The right talent is important, but consider certainly we would always take that position. The talent, not time slot, is important. But the reality of it is that it sounds like from what you're hearing, he wanted to do what he wanted to do, and I get that. And we'll see where he goes from here. He had started his own media group in the past.
The Daily Caller?
Yeah, with the backing of Foster Frias, who's a very wealthy billionaire.
Yeah.
But guys who are billionaires do not take their marching orders from the talent.
Yeah, right.
They don't.
Yeah.
And Tucker Carlson...
Because they can literally put any idiot there and say the things that they want him to say.
Well, without... Look, Tucker Carlson is a talented guy. I like him. I agree with a lot of his opinions. I've read a lot of his writing. He's a good writer. But without Fox News, that platform...
Yeah.
Where's Bill O'Reilly? I mean, I know he's here...
Yeah, he's got 15 minutes a day on some radio stations.
Right. He hasn't disappeared. But without the platform,
you're just not going to carry the way you do before. And
right.
he's actually, funny enough, the only host to be fired from all three of the major networks because he had a show on MSNBC, if people might remember.
Right.
And he was on Crossfire, and then Jon Stewart got him fired. Got them all fired on Crossfire.
He
wore a bow tie.
Is an interesting guy. He's got an interesting take on things, and the other thing too is that he's a major enemy of the Biden administration, no doubt about it.
The whole network is,
which is interesting. Well, they have been.
Yeah, they're an enemy of Obama too.
Joe Biden makes deals. It's the hallmark of his career. Tucker Carlson made Rupert Murdoch a lot of money. Now he's gone. Rupert Murdoch is going to pay him to sit on the bench. $2 million a month to stay out of the elections. If he leaves and takes another job, he doesn't get that $2 million a month.
Mm-hmm.
The contract goes through the end of the elections. Rupert Murdoch got something to get rid of Tucker Carlson.
Maybe.
Had to have. He didn't become a billionaire by giving away money. No billionaires do. He got something. What it is, I don't know.
Was that just the life of his contract?
No, it's going right now.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Is that what he makes anyway, or is that just? But
they're going to pay him to not go on the air.
Is it because they don't want to compete against him?
Well, yeah, and he can't take another job anywhere.
Well, that's what I mean. Maybe it's there. I don't know if it's about Joe Biden. I think it might be just they don't want to compete against him.
Well, if they didn't want to compete against him, they would have kept him.
No, they want him. They don't want him there, but they don't want him going anywhere else. So you pay him off.
Right, but why don't they want him there?
Well, because he talks smack about his bosses.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that it's interesting that they are going to keep him on the bench.
Yeah.
That's worth something. The other one that's interesting is, did you notice Peter Thiel? He's announced today, that's the billionaire.
Peter Thiel's a Silicon Valley billionaire who famously gets blood transfusions from younger people.
And financed Republicans.
An actual vampire. Yeah.
He financed Republicans.
Yeah.
He announced this morning, or yesterday evening, because he's a California guy, he's staying out of the elections. Mm-hmm. He's not putting any money behind any candidate.
But the thing is with Peter Thiel is he had some disagreements with Mitch McConnell, I think, about what candidates to fund and how elections were run and all that. And he ran that guy Blake Masters, who's an absolute creep against John Kelly or Mark Kelly, the astronaut, and they lost that Senate election handedly. I mean, Blake Masters had some really creepy video about how much he enjoys shooting with a silencer and all that. It was weird.
That may appeal out there. I don't know. But didn't know. Apparently it didn't.
Yeah.
But I think he also was behind Vance in Ohio.
J.D. Vance?
Yeah. Which was successful.
I think you could have put anybody there. But
so Peter Thiel is sitting out the elections now. I found that to be pretty interesting. Dan Bongino is gone as well from Fox News.
Okay.
Another guy who was fired.
He was a Secret Service agent, right?
Yeah. So what is happening at Fox? I don't really know. I will say that
I don't buy it. I don't think it's a rebrand after Dominion because Hannity's still there.
Sean is still there.
Yeah.
Sean Hannity is there. Overall, I think the Dominion lawsuit is a very complex and isolated situation. As I said to you, I was on the air through all of that, right? I remember what that was like when you had Rudy Giuliani, who was a very, at the time, serious man.
Yeah.
You had to pause when Rudy Giuliani was making these claims.
Yeah.
At some point, I was as confused as everybody else. I didn't have a national platform.
Yeah, right.
I was asking questions. I'm saying, that is Rudy Giuliani, U.S. attorney, breaker of the mafia, America's man, all this stuff. He's a serious guy.
Or was.
Right. This is my opinion of him at the time.
Yeah.
Not my opinion now. It was a very confusing time. All right. I thought to myself, look, show me the evidence.
Yeah.
Now, the fact of the matter is, I was in a radio studio in Fairhaven. If I made a mistake, it was not like being on Fox News.
Right.
Right? Looking back on, I don't think I made any mistakes because I was very, as I always am, not to say I don't make mistakes, but I was very cautious.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not in Pennsylvania. I don't know what happened to Pennsylvania. I understand how elections work better than Donald Trump does.
Right.
I've been involved in the day-to-days, as you have. I know what is possible. I know what's impossible. And what I was hearing was impossible.
Yeah.
But at first, what Rudy Giuliani said gave me great pause. Rudy Giuliani's run in elections. He's been an elected guy. As close as they come, an elected mayor.
Yeah.
Right? But he was making these claims.
Yeah.
So the idea that Fox News put him on television and gave him credit.
Not only did they do that, because they tried to say we have to cover when the president says something like this, it's the president and all that. Like, yeah, okay, sure, I guess, but you
definitely do.
But they didn't do it in a way that, like, this is what they're saying and this is what the other people are saying.
No, right.
That wasn't
right. So
this is what they're saying and this is what we found to be factually true.
So what I'm saying is that in that period of time, I remember it was a very confusing time. You have Rudy Giuliani. Look, Trump is Trump. So he said all kinds of crazy stuff. That was, you don't go to the bank with what Donald Trump says about his performance. I mean, it's sad to say, but he's like a lot. Well, same as Joe Biden, really. People exaggerate things like that, okay? But this was Rudy Giuliani. These are other lawyers, people who are officers of the court.
Yeah.
Okay. But at some point, you got to the show me the evidence stage.
Yeah.
Where it became ridiculous.
Yeah, and they ended up like they were going to be outside of a hotel, but they ended up being outside a hardware store or stuff like that. It was weird. Listen, we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Listen to us live anywhere in the world on the WBSM app. Marcus McCarthy. South Coast Tonight is the place to react to all of the day's news and where they make some news of their own. Back to the talk now on WBSM.
So, welcome back to the show, South Coast Tonight. We have Tucker Carlson's announcement, his first public announcement post being fired. So we'll play that. We have, of course, our friend Colin Hogan from the New Bedford Light. He's here. But we did think we'd bring it to you as quickly as possible. Because we know a lot of people are talking about the Tucker Carlson. Even though we defeated him, obviously. He competed against us. We're in the same time slot.
Yeah.
And you guys at home were more loyal to WBSM than you were to Tucker Carlson. And for that reason, he was defeated. And he's now unemployed.
Let's take another break.
We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Good evening. Welcome back to South Coast Tonight. So Tucker Carlson literally released a segment like very, very, very recently, like minutes ago. So we're going to play it for you guys.
Good evening. It's Tucker Carlson. One of the first things you realize when you step outside the noise for a few days is how many genuinely nice people there are in this country. Kind and decent people who really care about what's true, and a bunch of hilarious people also. A lot of those. It's got to be the majority of the population, even now. So that's heartening. The other thing you notice when you take a little time off is how unbelievably stupid most of the debates you see on television are. They're completely irrelevant. They mean nothing. In 5 years, we won't even remember that we had them. Trust me, as someone who's participated. And yet at the same time, and this is the amazing thing, the undeniably big topics, the ones that will define our future, get virtually no discussion at all. War, civil liberties, emerging science, demographic change, corporate power, natural resources. When was the last time you heard a legitimate debate about any of those issues? It's been a long time. Debates like that are not permitted in American media. Both political parties and their donors have reached consensus on what benefits them, and they actively collude to shut down any conversation about it. Suddenly, the United States looks very much like a one-party state. That's a depressing realization, but it's not permanent. Our current orthodoxies won't last. They're brain dead. Nobody actually believes them. Hardly anyone's life is improved by them. This moment is too inherently ridiculous to continue, and so it won't. The people in charge know this. That's why they're hysterical and aggressive. They're afraid. They've given up persuasion. They're resorting to force. But it won't work. When honest people say what's true, calmly and without embarrassment, they become powerful. At the same time, the liars who've been trying to silence them shrink, and they become weaker. That's the iron law of the universe. True things prevail. Where can you still find Americans saying true things? There aren't many places left, but there are some, and that's enough. As long as you can hear the words, there is hope. See you soon.
Yeah, it sounds like the same like faux populism garbage that he said every night on TV. It doesn't sound any different. It didn't really mean a whole lot, and it didn't give any clear answers on why he was fired and where he's going to go next. But there were words said, so that was that.
I mean, I think that the fact that, first of all, let me just say that we have Colin Hogan here. In his publication, regularly talks about natural resources. We're having a debate on this program about the wind and fishing and things. It's all natural resources.
Yeah.
So I get it, but I don't need to understand from him why he was fired. It doesn't affect my life. I do think that some of what he just said is accurate, but I think that
it's accurate. It's true. Some of what he said is accurate, but it is accurate. But to the extent that he's like ever been like a check against that and not like a party to it is, I think, ridiculous.
Well, I almost think that was an admission.
Yeah, right.
I don't think he was saying he wasn't part of it.
Yeah,
there was none of that. But I think that because he participated in that, don't say I do.
Yeah.
No one tells me what to say.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally, no one. You and I don't even script this. We come up with whatever we want.
Yeah, that's why we were talking to Mayor Mitchell about
our own guests. I mean, everyone deserves an editor. Don't get me wrong. If you write something, it does. Someone looks at it after you write it. If I say something that's wrong, I'm subject to litigation. I'm subject to discipline by my bosses. If I'm reckless, we all are. Everyone has a structure, right?
Yeah.
I mean, someone paid for this microphone. I didn't. But